Welcome to the Business Collective Podcast with Terry Fletcher. Weekly conversations and insights on how to go from employee to consultant in any business field where your years of expertise can be showcased. Take your career to the next level, entrepreneurship. Now here's your host, nationally recognized healthcare consultant, speaker, and author, Terry Fletcher.
Welcome, everyone, to the Business Collective Podcast. My name is Terry Fletcher. It is Memorial Day weekend, and today is Memorial Day on this Mindset Monday and also Work Monday for some of us who are entrepreneurs. And we are at our 10th episode. So today, I'm going to really talk to you about certain things that, in my opinion, just really speak to an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is something that requires a certain mindset. It requires a certain answer to the truth of how you're feeling about breaking into your new space. And I want you to ask yourself certain questions about becoming an entrepreneur, because I think sometimes we put the cart before the horse, if you will, and I think it's important to really look at that first. So let's take a look at that. But first, the Business Collective Podcast is brought to you today by Inc. Magazine. Our entrepreneurs are innovators, creators, leaders, visionaries, and 55% are now women. Inc.com. So when I mentioned questions to ask yourself if you want to become an entrepreneur, it's about some of you that are scared. And I know sometimes it's hard to answer these questions, and I don't want you to hide behind the truth. I want you to be honest with yourself. I want you to really understand what it takes to build. And I understand the truth can be a scary thing. But if you want to build a successful business and life that you are proud to live each day, being honest with yourself is going to be required to move forward in your entrepreneur life. So when I set out on my mission to change my life and become an entrepreneur, I had to get really clear on what it was that I wanted and what I was willing to do to get it. Now, I don't like when people talk about, my journey and these sad stories. I don't have one of those, and I have a lot of information as far as how I got there, but I would never give you a sad story, because when I start hearing those, I just basically skip it and I go to the next podcast. However, in saying that, I have had a lot of really tough questions asked to me in my, and again, I hate to call it journey, but in the time it took to get me to where I was really happy in my entrepreneur life. And all these questions really helped me redefine, redirect, even recalibrate my business and overall direction. So here are the three biggest questions that I think it's time to ask yourself right now. It's time to get serious, be honest, and move your goals forward. So number one, if you had a business you never wanted to escape from, what would it look like? People go on vacation to escape their life. What would it be like if you had a life where you never wanted to take a vacation? Consider what that life would look like and then build to it. So begin to build to it. This question will force you to have some clarity on what is actually important to you. I mean, sure, you want to have a business that makes you money, but if the actionable steps that you are entrenched in day to day, day in, day out, aren't what you enjoy doing, then that business is likely not right for you. Before you get really deep into building a business, make sure it's the right one now, one you won't want to leave behind. Because unlike a corporate 9-to-5 job, when Friday afternoon hits, it doesn't mean you can walk away and forget everything in the office. Remember that. So it's constantly with you. Speaking of Memorial Day weekend, I had somebody ask me, so what are your plans for the weekend? Well, I have 3 podcasts to record. I'm actually in the middle of an audit that I'm doing, and I'm actually excited to come in on a Saturday because I have some quiet time that I can work on things where there's nobody else in my office. Even though I work in an office, my office space has limited people around, but it's just, which it should at this point in the universe. But here is where I'm excited to actually go to work on a Saturday. Now, this is not saying that you have to work weekends. I'm not saying that because I know a lot of you have families. And family time on the weekend is something you do have to make time for. There is something called balance. I'm aware of that. Of course, when you're a starting out entrepreneur, that isn't always there. But when you look at the business aspect of what you're doing, you have to understand that being an entrepreneur is something that is an extension of you. It is your personality. It's your brand. It's who you are in a lot of aspects. So I know I've heard people say about their job, it's not who I am, it's what I do. Well, yes, if you're working for somebody else, I absolutely agree with that. But if you work for yourself and you're building something for yourself, even if you're building something for a possible legacy to leave to your kids or leave to somebody, then you have to understand that this is not something you want to escape from. This is something you want to enjoy, that you could consider it part of your vacation time. I know when I speak at conferences as, a public speaker, and they invite me to Hawaii or they invite me somewhere, Florida or wherever, I do build that into a vacation for myself. But it's really how you feel about where you are within that business, and ask yourself that question. Again, if you had a business you never wanted to escape from, what would it look like? Now, number 2, how does the person who has all of the things you want show up? So becoming the person you want to be means looking at those who inspire you and emulating their actions. I know that's tough. If you drag your feet into the office with a wrinkled shirt and a lackadaisical attitude, of course, you aren't going to become this next CEO. Start playing the part of the role you want to have, not one you're currently in. I have a lesson that I teach my daughter, who's now an adult, but when she was younger, she played softball and took it into college. And I remember when she was 13 or 14, she basically rolled out of bed because we had a very early softball game out of town, about an hour out. And I said, go do your hair. She liked to straighten her hair. Make sure you wash your face, do whatever you have to do. And she goes, why am I straightening my hair? I'm tired. It's 5 a.m. I said, because you want to dress for your part. And I noticed that when you practice and you do your hair with your friends and you make sure that you are completely not looking like you rolled out of bed. This is not a sleepover. This is what you do, and this is what you want to take into the next step of your professional, softball career as you try to get scholarships. You need to look the part. And ever since I said that to her, she never went to practice, never went to a game. Didn't matter what time we had to get up or leave or what time anything was. She always looked put together, more so than some of her teammates, and that's what made her have a good game. It was just basically looking the part and being an inspiration to others who started to not look like they were rolling out of bed. So look at your biggest inspiration and learn as much as you can about them. To what can this person attribute their success? I've had some people say, I want to be you, or I have a lot of business coaching clients now. I have about a dozen, and they talk to me about skill sets, about how I show up to practices, about how I, conduct myself when we are doing certain virtual meetings now. But ask yourself, if you have somebody like that in your life, ask yourself what skills they built, what type of businesses they run, and what they command when they walk into a room. I looked at everything from how, certain people that I respected and were inspiring to me, how they built their brands, and to what their diet looked like. I learned about how they spoke publicly. I learned where they invested their money, and I didn't copy them, but I definitely took a similar approach in how I did certain things, always sticking to my core. So you don't lose sight of who you are, but realize that every detail matters. When you ask yourself this question, it will be a strong indicator of how close or how far off you are from showing up as the person you are becoming in your entrepreneurship journey. Okay, and so there I am with that word again. Number 3 is, if you didn't have to be your best, would you? So I was asked this question, and it really took me by surprise. I was talking to a group recently on a virtual book club, and we were talking about, and actually it's a podcast club, so I should clarify. And one of the things is we got to have chapter choice, and people were listening to this podcast, and they said, I really liked the podcast. It was inspiring to me, but I have a question to you. If you didn't have to be your best and on top of it all the time, would you? And for those of us now that have to work remotely, and for those of you that are working remotely and having a lot of virtual sessions, and I mentioned even last week some of the non-professional things I'm seeing, this type of question, most people don't want to answer honestly. So I began to tread lightly into the answer, because honestly, I wasn't sure what my truth would reveal. But deep down, I was confidently able to answer, and I said, yes, I want to be my best. Sure, it's tempting to let go and ride the bus straight to a mediocre town, but that wasn't what I wanted, and honestly, that's not me. I actually have a very good friend of mine, and him and I talk about business and about sports and about everything that has to do with just life in general. He's just a great inspiration to me of somebody to talk to. And one of the things we both agree on is that we just don't like the normal go with the flow, mediocrity. And it's really sparked a question about being your best if you actually have to. And this question sparked inspiration in me and acted as a reminder of what I wanted to run towards and away from. So use this question as a way to be reminded of what you want and why you want it. Building the life of an entrepreneur isn't for the faint of heart. It just isn't. You have to really want it. You have to really dream of becoming the best version of yourself and become relentless in that pursuit. So if you're scared to answer any of these questions, you may be hiding behind that truth of yours. Rip off the Band-Aid. Take time to be honest with your answers, because the truth is the answers are going to come out eventually. So you should probably face them now instead of delaying for your dreams later. But I think that is just a really important segment that I wanted to bring to you today so that you can think about those things as you move forward. And I want to end with today, and I know we're at a short segment, but remember, a dream becomes a goal when you write it down. Please continue your journaling, continue to write things down, and look at it daily. And that will bring you that much closer to your dream of being an entrepreneur and getting you to the point where you can reflect and realize that you are going to have success in the business that you want. So until next week, where I'm going to focus on service-related businesses, I hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. Make it a great day and a great week on this Mindset Monday. And thank you for listening to the Business Collective podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Business Collective podcast. Drop us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website and blog at www.business-collective.com.